Right, we're going to have a quick look at a couple of useful knots for setting up a hammock or indeed a tarpaulin or something like that. We're going to have a look at a timber hitch and the slippery figure of 8. So we want to get our hammock up between a couple of trees. The first thing that we need is a really solid anchor point. So for that we're going to use a timber hitch, and the reason that we use a timber hitch is because however much load is put on it, we will always be able to get it off again. So obviously if it's going to be securing a ridge line for a tarp, then you're going to put quite a lot of tension on it anyway, and weight of water, wind in the night, that sort of thing will also be tightening those knots up all the time. Obviously if it's in a hammock, then it's got your body weight swinging in it. So either way, the knot's going to have a lot of tensioning forces on it in the course of the night, and you still want to be able to get it off in the morning. So we'll go for a timber hitch over here. So we're going to come around the tree with the working end, and then we need to create an eye here. So we're going to go back across the main line with the working end. So we've created that eye effect, and now we're going to wrap inside there. A proper timber hitch has 3 wraps. However, if you're putting your body weight on it, be a little bit careful not to squash that moth. If you're putting your body weight on it, I would recommend 6, particularly on fissured and textured bark, because not all of these wraps will be secured by friction against the tree. So if you've only got 3, don't be surprised if you suddenly notice a little bit of movement and meet the floor soon afterwards. Okay, so we've got those wraps around there. Nothing's holding this knot yet until I put some tension on, and then those wraps all get pinched up against the tree, and we can see that's holding my weight nicely. Okay, so we've got a good solid anchor. Now we've got to measure the gap between the trees, so we may need to come back and adjust that in a minute. I've given us the maximum amount of line possible, and now let's see how that pans out. So obviously we're doing this in such a way as to keep everything off the floor so we don't get wet. So now we can gauge the gap between these trees. I am going to quickly tie this up for a second, then I'm just going to adjust my timber hitch. So we'll just go and tighten this up a little bit at this end. So by pushing on the eye, I take the tension off the tree, and then we can get those wraps undone. So we'll put a little bit more line around the tree now, and then we'll create the eye again. So we've got our eye, and remembering that we're taking the working end back around itself. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, and then put the tension on there. Lovely. Okay. Now for this end, we are going to want to do a slightly different knot. So here we want to be able to get this knot undone tomorrow morning, and we can't use a timber hitch, okay? Because if we've got 2 timber hitches and the line is tight between them, you can't release that eye. So we need to look at a different knot here. So for this, we are going to do a knot with a draw loop that we can pull undone again. So with both lines, we're going around the tree, and then I'm going to wrap around my fingers, bring my fingers up and over to the top, and in doing so, I think of this as I look at it, as a C shape. So I've put a kink in that line, and then we're just going to pull a loop through like that. Tighten that up and slide it up against the tree. Now, the beauty of this knot is when we've been laying in our hammock all night, putting loads of tension on here, and we need to get this off in the morning, all we do is that. Now this is used a lot by people in cold climates, because if the lines are frozen, if they're moist and they're frozen in the night, you can still get them off. Now, one thing we do need to bear in mind is this loop here, it is prone to your prankster friend, or if the line trails on the floor, somebody unintentionally releasing this in the night. If that was to happen with you in your sleeping bag, it's actually quite hazardous, because your arms are pinned in against your sides and the back of your head's going to hit the floor if it's the head end that goes. So it's a good idea to put something in here to stop that from happening, be that by a unintended trip in the line or by somebody thinking they're being funny. So what we can do is we can fold the line up over on itself and double it over a couple of times, and that gives us a big bundle of line here, and we can put that in the loop and draw the loop down on there. And now it cannot draw back through. So it's nice and tight there, but when we want to take it off, we can simply pull that lot out, pull the knot, and we're undone again. I'll show you that one more time. So I'm going around the tree with the main line, then I'm taking the working end around my fingers, swinging it up and over the top and putting a draw loop through, and then tightening that knot up, tightening it up against the tree. Now, if we haven't got enough spare line to go in there, we can simply take a stick off the floor and put a stick in and use it as a brake stick. So if we were in a big gap between the trees and we only had 3 inches to spare and we couldn't hang the line over, then simply put a brake stick in instead. But as we've got a bit spare, it's a good way of keeping that trailing line off the floor and stopping anybody tripping over it in the dark. So, bunched up there, and all nice and tight.